Someone would have said to you, hey, we have a sports psychologist, Dr. J or someone, would you think you would have went?
Knowing what I know now, absolutely, 1,000%.
Hello everyone, welcome to Developing Champions with Dr. J. I'm your host, Dr. Julie Warnick with the Texas Center for Sport Psychology. I have a very special guest with me today. His name is Mr. Lenny Walls, and he is a former cornerback in the NFL. Lenny played for the Denver Broncos, the Kansas City Chiefs, the St. Louis Rams, and the Baltimore Ravens. How are you today, Lenny?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Julie?
I'm doing well, thank you. So for those who are watching, tell us a little bit about your childhood and the sports you played and where you grew up.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in the San Francisco, Oakland Bay area, in the 80s. It was a rough environment in the inner city parts of the Bay Area. I recall a time when our house got raided. My mom and dad both sold drugs back in the days, and it was at that point, that was a pivotal point in our lives because my mom decided that she wanted something different for me and my twin brother, and she sent us to Arkansas to live with my grandmother. And we spent a lot of our early childhood in Arkansas, and that's the first time we started playing organized sports when we were 7 years old. And so that's when we fell in love with sports.
Yeah. What sports did you play?
I played football, basketball, track, and baseball. I played all four of those sports up until about the 8th grade, and then I just stuck with 3 and gave up baseball.
Yeah. In today's world, everyone specializes in one sport, so I'm sure you see the value of playing multiple sports.
Oh, absolutely. It made me the person that I am today, and obviously helped me be a better athlete. And I could use certain skill sets from each sport and transition to another sport.
Yeah, that's great. Kids are watching. They need to know that it's okay, that you can still be great and be in the NFL.
Absolutely.
And playing multiple sports.
For sure.
So tell us about the day you got a call from the NFL. A coach called you.
On draft day, which was a big day for me, I was expected to go on the first day, somewhere between the first and third round. And unfortunately, I didn't get drafted that day. And I had about 10 different teams call me. It was typically a head of personnel, some type of scout. All these different teams were calling, but the Denver Broncos was the only team where the head coach actually called me, and it was Mike Shanahan.
Wow.
And I knew at that point that was the team that I was going to sign on. So I came in with a chip on my shoulder because so many teams passed me up when I was expected to go so high. But I still was able to play, a number of years, so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, there's always an obstacle. You have to keep fighting through it.
It's just my story,
Right.
It's my story.
Well, I'm glad someone saw the best in you and gave
sure.
you a chance.
For sure.
So after joining the league, did you have any mentors or guides going through all the...
Unfortunately, being a person who mentors young men himself right now and understanding the mentors that I do have in my life right now as even still a young man, I didn't have anybody I could really qualify as a mentor, because a mentor is really not just somebody who cares about you and gives you advice, but someone who also has the results that you want in your life. And so I grew up around a lot of people who loved me but didn't have the results that I wanted. They sold drugs, or they were in and out of jail, they were involved with the wrong things. A few of them, some of my cousins were great athletes, and I aspired to be like them when I was young. And I think just giving me that vision really helped me a lot.
Yeah, I think there's a lack of mentors or guides.
Yeah.
Sports psychologists or counselors, financial advisors. You guys are dealing with pressures, finances, injuries, right? And we talked a little about your injuries that you've had and how difficult it was. What were the worst injuries that you suffered?
I broke my leg. I actually tore ligaments and cartilage in my ankle, but the most severe injury was my shoulder injury by far.
What happened there?
I dislocated it 3 times in 2004 and ended up being on injury reserve, having surgery and things like that.
It's very painful, dislocation.
Extremely.
I know, I experienced it myself.
Yeah.
You didn't have surgery right away?
I did not. I think I dislocated it early, first 2 or 3 weeks of the season. Actually, it was a Monday night game. I don't recall exactly what week it was, but it was early in the season. I dove for interception. Jarred my shoulder out, landed on this arm and jarred it out. And I was out for that game. It was excruciating. For some reason, my shoulder didn't want to pop back in. And so you know how that is. And, I would come back sporadically. I would be out for 2 or 3 weeks. Wore a harness on my shoulder, took shots the night before the game, cortisone, whatever it was, injections, and just toughed it out and tried to do the best I could to get back out there.
That seems like the mentality, right? Kind of suck it up or fight through it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So no one really helped you through that process. How did you cope with that? The anxiety, the pressure to come back, the pressures with finances, you know, could it be the end of your career?
Yeah, I mean, you speak of finances, that was a pivotal year for me as a starter. You know, being a starter and being in a contract year where I can just stay healthy that season, I'm going to get paid a lot of money. And to have to deal with that was very stressful. The coping tactics that I use are probably not good for TV right now, but you know, whether it was smoking marijuana, whether it was drinking, partying, but also doing what I had to do when I got to the facility to rehab. You know, I did all those things as well, but I didn't really have anyone that I could talk to to make sure that my mind stayed right.
And I've heard this before. I had another player, played for multiple teams, a quarterback, had an injury and wished he would have had someone to help him. And now we're seeing that. We're seeing more and more sports psychologists.
For sure.
Would you, if someone would have said to you, hey, you know, we have a sports psychologist, you know, Dr. J or someone, would you think you would have went or
yeah, I don't know.
been open to it?
What I know, knowing what I know now, absolutely, 1,000%. Back then, I don't know. You know, it was a stigma about, you know, it's a stigma for getting help or seeking counsel or, you know, especially back then where everybody's expected to be a gladiator. Right. And so I don't know how I would have took it, but knowing what I know now, the importance of thought process and how your thoughts affect your feelings, I think it's important that we all have someone like that in our corner.
This is why we're here today.
Absolutely.
We're trying to help everyone watching to say, hey, listen, you don't have to be messed up or weak. That you know everyone can use support. You know, you have physical conditioning, you have nutritionists. But having someone like that would be
and a lot of people just isolate themselves. And if you only have your own self to follow, you're not going to maximize your potential or get as far as you can go when you don't have that influential person by your side. Yeah,
and you talked earlier in other meetings about like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning, how sharp they were. You know, would you wish you would have had someone to guide you on the mental focus? Could you have performed better if you had that mental conditioning?
I mean, absolutely. Or just having, like I said, someone who has the results that you want. I mean, Peyton Manning had a father who played in the NFL. You know, Tom Brady has Bill Belichick or whoever else was in his life at the time. And that always gives you a competitive advantage when you can develop the mindset, the focus, and really have the gratitude to appreciate the moment that you're in. I don't think I always fully appreciated the moment. Being somebody who grew up in struggle, once I made it, it was like, I'm here now. You know, instead of really appreciating that moment and having somebody to really whip you into understanding that.
You know, when we were in a meeting, you said something that was completely profound, that kind of knocked me off my chair. I asked you about that missed interception. And I said, well, you know, from a performance, I thought, did you take your eye off it? You know, did you run before you catch it? And then you said, no, it was gratefulness. And I thought, wow. So talk about that a little more.
Yeah, I mean, a dropped interception is what you're talking about. And I dropped a few of those in my day. I mean, I had great hands. I don't think it was had anything to do with you know my abilities, but sharpness, clarity of focus, but more importantly, gratitude. You know, when you have gratitude, you perform at a high level when you because you can't, nothing negative gets in your life or gets in your mind when you're full of gratitude. And so when you can play the game with more appreciation, you value every play a little bit more. And when you value something, you protect it, you take care of it. And when you don't value it, you know, you get distracted, you let it go, you lose it. I
love that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's a great perspective that you have.
Yeah.
You know, I think everyone kind of takes for granted what they have and think they want more, or they don't have this and they don't have that. But how it can affect your focus, that's pretty profound.
Gratitude is the seed to receiving more. I mean, that's how you get more. And I think, you know, there was a time in my NFL career, especially when I started making, you know, multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, where, you know, you kind of let your foot off of the gas and you know, that's not where I'm from. That's not how I grew up. I always was very, you know, a guy with a chip on his shoulder and staying focused on where I wanted to get. But it's like I needed that struggle to push me. And understanding how to handle success was a big issue for me, huge issue for me. Just understanding how to deal with that kind of money and that
what
kind of success.
What would you have done differently if you had some mentorship?
I would have took care of my body. Okay. I would have gotten my rest. I wouldn't have partied all the time. I would have taken better care of my finances. I would have probably read books and influenced my thought process a little bit better. Surrounded myself with quality people, different type of people. All of those different things I would have done.
Yeah. Well, you're doing so much for the community, but I wanted to ask a question before we talked about the struggles of having an athletic identity. I think a lot of people who come in my office, and myself as well, and you, is that you're good at what you do and you're known for what you do, right? Being great. And the struggles of retiring and transitioning from your athletic identity into a career identity. I know that was a struggle for you. Can you talk a little about that?
Oh man, that was, my wife can tell you better than anyone that was probably one of the toughest moments in my life. Just leaving the game that I love so much and that gave me so much purpose. Started playing at 7, retired at 31, so that's 24 years of my life. That's all I've ever done. And so it was quite depressing at times, If I didn't have the outlet of just going to the gym and working out, I probably would have stayed inside a lot. But I'm grateful for her, and I'm grateful for the people that I ended up meeting that God has put in my life since that time to really help me cope in a different way than I would have in the past.
We have a lot of people watching right now, and they're learning from us, and this is why we're here today. What would you tell them about sports and identity and what's important in life?
Remain grateful no matter what level you're at in life, whether you're down or whether, I always tell people you're either in a storm, coming out of a storm, or headed towards one. So just remain grateful no matter how high you get. Be humble, something that I struggled with. And just focus on self-mastery. Be the best that you can, but only be the best that you can so that you can make a contribution to somebody else.
Right, and right now you're helping the community. You have the Hustle Academy. What do you feel when you help others? And tell me about the mentorship you're doing in the community. A
great deal of joy. I mean, I started my nonprofit, me and my wife, back in 2012, so about 7 years now. We first started doing the Youth Olympics, which was an annual fitness camp where I would have NFL guys come out, and we would really just teach kids the importance of proper exercise and nutrition. Then we had the bowling with the pros. Similar event, we would rent out the bowling alley, but I wanted to do something more intimate, so I established the Hustle Academy, which I've been doing now for the past year.
What type of things, what's your water? What type of people are you hanging around that's gonna pour, right? Pour water on that seed, that idea.
I just mentor young men between the ages of 11 and 22 years old. And I want to speed up their growth process. I want to teach them the things, because I can identify with them, especially if they're going through challenge. Because my whole story has been about struggle and progress, but then also teaching them the importance of not only giving them the blueprint of becoming successful, but what to do once they get there. And so that's a sweet spot for me. 11 and 22-year-old young men, it fills me up with a lot of joy.
Yes, sometimes we don't have the parent influence, but it doesn't have to be just parents. It can be like you and I and others out there that are helping, and you can still be successful and amazing. It's just we need to reach out, but we also need to accept help.
For sure.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So thank you for all you're doing in the community.
Thank you too.
Are there any other nuggets that you want to share to everybody watching today? I mean, you have coaches, you have young athletes. We're trying to make a difference, especially with the psychology of helping, because I think we're starting to see a breakthrough with not being a stigma, and not being able to sit with your depression and hide it from people, because I think all people kind of go through the same things.
For sure.
What would you have to say?
Pick a champion. Don't be afraid to speak up with what there's challenges that you're dealing with. Find someone who has the results that you want. Find someone who genuinely cares about you. And talk to them, let it out, because it's useful. That's why I mentor people right now, because I know that my bigger purpose in life wasn't to play professional football, but to make an impact in people's lives. And so that's what I would recommend.
I think it feels good to make a great catch or to throw a touchdown pass or make that double play.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a short-term fulfillment. But I think for me, it sounds like for both of us, the long-term fulfillment is and contentment is helping other people.
Absolutely.
It lasts longer.
Absolutely.
Lenny, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate
My pleasure,
you.
Julie.
If you're an athlete struggling, please give us a call. If you're a coach and you want to take your team to the next level, we're here to help at the Texas Center for Sport Psychology. Thank you so much for watching. This is Developing Champions with Dr. J. Until next time.